So as I said, today's the fourth Sunday of Easter, and the fourth Sunday of Easter is known as Good Shepherd Sunday. During both the A, B, and C readings of the year, we read the story of the Good Shepherd, different ones, but stories. Today, John talks about not only that Jesus is not only the Good Shepherd, but he also is the sheep gate. Now, it may be difficult for some of us to understand the importance of the image to that Jewish community that Jesus was preaching to. Although I guess since this is really a farm community, you sort of may appreciate and value more and understand the relationship that the owner has with his animals. I grew up in a metropolitan area, I have no idea. The people of Jesus' time understood this unique relationship between the sheep and their owner. We heard that the shepherd could call each of his sheep by name, and we heard the importance of the sheep gate to protect the sheep from danger. Today, the church wants us to know that Jesus is the Redeemer. He is the sheep gate. He is the one who protects us from the ways of the evil one. But only if we have a relationship with him, only if we respond to his voice to follow him. In the Psalm 23, we hear that he guides us in right paths for the sake of his name. The readings about Jesus as a good shepherd, the church dedicates today as a day for prayer for vocations. In fact, I think it's the 63rd day. We heard in the gospel that the gatekeeper opens the gate for them and the sheep hear his voice, and the shepherd calls his own sheep by name, and then he leads them out. So traditionally, when we think about a call or a vocation, we tend to think about the priesthood and religious life. But the church's understanding of vocations is much greater than those two options. In his letter for this vocation day of prayer, Pope Leo said, "He is the true shepherd who draws us to himself, whose gaze reveals that life is truly beautiful when we follow him." So a vocation is a response to God's call to each of us individually. Furthermore, the Pope says that a vocation entails an intimate dialogue with the one who calls and invites us to respond, despite the deafening noise of the world, with true joy and generosity. He capsizes for us the relationship of being a Christian. The issue of today is for us to reflect on our response to this call from God. We are called to follow Jesus, but not each one of us is called to follow the same path. The church teaches that there are different ways to respond to God's call. I like to use, when I have this discussion, I like to use the image that St. Paul talks about when he talks about that we're all in the race. And we're all in the race to win, he said, not the perishable crown, but the imperishable crown, salvation, heaven. Reflecting on this image of a race, I think about the different kinds of races that you can think about. You can think about a long-distance runner race. You can think about a relay race. You can think about a three-legged race. And you can think about something called a sack race. I think that each of these ways is a way in which we respond to God's call. They all become vocational choices. When we think about this, it's called the discernment process. Pope Leo says, "Listen to the voice of the Lord who invites you to a full and fruitful life, calling you to put your talents to use and to unite the limitations and weaknesses with the glorious cross of Christ." So as we just think about this call and how we're going to respond, we think about which race are we choosing to enter. Because each of those races represents what I believe is a response to a vocational call to win the imperishable crown. But a vocation is not a one and done. It's not like, oh, I am, so that's it. It's a daily challenge to grow in holiness. Again, the Pope says, it's not an immediate possession. It's not something given once for all. Instead, it is a path that unfolds much like life itself. The gift received must not only be protected, but also nourished by a daily relationship with God in order to grow and bear fruit. So we think about these races as vocational choices. The three-legged race is the most chosen race. And I believe that it represents the married life. Because if you choose to run in the three-legged race, you're choosing to choose a partner, to bind yourself to that partner with the goal of getting you both together across the line. And of course, your children. To achieve heaven not only for yourself, but with your spouse and your children, to win that imperishable crown. But the day you get married is not, that's the day you respond to the call. But as you grow, as your married life continues, is how you're responding to the call daily. And there are going to be ups and downs in the marriage, but are you committed to get your wife, your spouse, and yourself to heaven? That's what it's about. It's about being able to go through the ups and downs of the marriage life, but to be committed to helping each of you get to heaven. Or the other vocational choice could be that of what I call a relay race. I like to think that the relay race is for people who decide that they want to enter the religious life as a brother or a sister. They join a community of people. So they're not running the race by themselves. They're running part of that race, and they're running it with other people. They're handing off to other people. So they're called to do their part, but they're called to do it in a community of people, to not only bring themselves that imperishable crown, but to work to help to bring your whole community to the imperishable crown, to live out the witness that the founder of that community has chosen, and they have chosen to exemplify in this life. And then, of course, there's the long-distance runner. I think the long-distance runner reflects the choice of a single life. The single life isn't like, oh, nothing else. So now, single life can be a choice. It's a choice to follow God, follow Jesus by yourself, to run the race by yourself, to challenge yourself, to serve the societal community that you live in. One of the examples that I like to use is years ago we had large family. They had large families. And there was always a brother or a sister who decided that they weren't going to be married because they were the one who was going to stay home and take care of mom and pop. You know, the matronly aunt, you know, the poor old aunt. But ultimately that was a choice that that person made in order to care for his parents, in order to care for the society around us. So the single life is an opportunity to be available for the needs of the society that you live in. And then, of course, there's what's called the potato sack race. For me, this race is an image of the priesthood. As a priest, my job is not just to get myself to heaven. My vocation is to get to heaven with the community of faith that I have been given to lead. The priesthood is not a solitary vocation, as many people think. It is a call to serve the faith community and to help that faith community achieve salvation. I can only get across the line if I'm in the sack. The priest achieves the imperishable crown only when he gets across the finish line with his faith community. So each vocation is a response to the call of Jesus to follow him, to be of service to others around us. So just to summarize, in a married vocation, the primary target of your Christian service is your spouse and your children, and that service is ultimately to get them to heaven. As a religious, the primary target of your service are the members of your community to demonstrate the charism that the founder has offered, and then to get your whole community into heaven. As a single person, the primary target of your service are the society around you, to help them, to model for them the Christian life, and to help them achieve the imperishable crown. And as a priest, the primary target of his service is to help the faith community that he leads, to serve them, to get them to heaven. And as we heard in that psalm, if we respond faithfully to the call of the shepherd, then only goodness and kindness follow us all the days of our lives, and we shall dwell in the house of the Lord for years to come. Praise God now and forever.